I really think I need to use some of this stuff up. Okay then, so I may have a bit of a problem with film. I love film, and as I explained on a recent video, I had huge problems deciding on which films and which developers to use. Now, I've accumulated rather a lot of film over the last few years, so I've decided to work my way through it before I buy any more. Now, I'm not going to give up film in any means whatsoever. This is just me having a bit of a clear out. Now, tend to be a bit of a collector of cameras, of films, and I have far too much stock in at the moment. Now, this all sits in my freezer. My freezer is filling up with film, it has paper in there, it has chemicals. So I need to make use of what I've already got before I buy anything else. Now, if I start to look at what I've got in my box, I have a myriad of different materials. I have fast films, I have slow films, I have all sorts of capabilities in there. I've got infrared, I've got super high speed, I've got slow films, I've got technical films, I've got grainy films, I've got smooth films, I've got chromogenic films, I've got too many films. I have far too many films. So I have to start using them all up. Otherwise, I'm gonna get nowhere. Now, this may take some time. I'm talking about, a year or more to get through some of this. And by the way, this is just my collection of 35mm and 120 film. I haven't even dug out the large format film from the freezer because it's frozen. So I'm going to have to think about what I shoot this year very carefully and choose the right film from the stocks I've got. 2022 for me is all about using what I've got. This is the same for cameras. I am not going to promise you I won't buy any more camera equipment, but I'm trying to promise myself I will restrict myself to only the absolute necessities. I will replace things if they're broken. I will use what I've got. Now, I really need to work out what my film requirements are, and I am talking here black and white. I'm not even going to go back to the freezer and get the colour out. That's just another whole world of pain, and I'm not shooting colour. By the way, I haven't shot colour since 2020. I haven't shot a single roll or a single frame of colour film. So what do I need from my black and white films? Well, I need probably a very limited range. I probably need something which is a slow film for occasions when I want super high detail and plenty of contrast. Now, the likes of Delta 100 would probably do me quite nicely, but there are other options as well. You may have seen me recently, in quite a few videos recently, shooting ADOX CMS20, which is without a doubt the finest and sharpest film out there. It's absolutely incredible, but it's not for every use. It's rather slow, it's rather contrasty, and it's not easy to develop. Or I could go old school and shoot Pan F. Pan F, what a cracking film. Pan F's been around forever. Super smooth, lovely tonality, very punchy. A classic film. But there are other options too. I even have some of the original Acros here from 2010, 2011. That's probably, technically, the finest 100 grain film out there. It's got such beautiful contrast and tonality. But maybe sometimes I find that a little bit clinical. Now, the big problem for me comes with medium speed films. Now, medium speed films are my favourite of all. These are the 400 speeds, and there are so many options out there. I am rather partial to XP2 Super for my landscape work, as you will have seen if you watch any of my videos. It controls the highlights better than any other black and white film out there. It has a nice shoulder which rolls off that contrast, which stops it blocking up. Especially useful for darkroom work. Or what about HP5 Plus? It goes without saying, HP5 Plus, probably the most versatile film out there. Absolutely stunning results. Love the grain, love the tonality. You can push it to 16 and 3200, so really, really useful. Pretty much a universal film. And then there's Delta 400. I like Delta 400, it's got a bit more punch than HP5 Plus. It's a little bit finer grained, a little bit sharper potentially. Pushes well, another lovely film. Plenty of choice. Let's not even get into the specialist films here. I like Rolly Infrared 400. Works as a conventional film, works as an infrared film, but maybe not for everything. And finally, what about high speed, like Delta 3200? Shoot that and you'll get stunning grain. People will say, oh, it's far too grainy, but it has a beautiful tonality. If you start pushing the likes of, HP5 Plus, if I can find a roll, if you start pushing the likes of HP5 Plus, it will get contrastier. It'll get more contrasty. Whereas this has a lovely soft contrast. So if I'm shooting this at the likes of 1600, I'll get beautiful midtones. This may be a bit harsh, a bit soot and whitewash. So fast films have their place too. So I really need to make my mind up. I need to do something about consolidating and reducing the amount of films I have, and then I'll just purchase those in the future and not collect this whole smorgasbord of choice because it's doing my head in. Now, although this video is entitled Using Up All My Film, or probably entitled that anyway, it is also using up all my paper. I tend to collect a bit of paper. I've only been back into darkroom work for about 3 years and I've already collected quite a range of materials. However, I only use 2 or 3 on a regular basis, so I'm going to have to do something about working through those as well. Now with my paper, it's a little bit more tricky because the paper imparts such a different look to the image. It's so much more important to me in many ways than the film. If I go for a warm tone paper, or I go for a very harsh paper like a Slavich, or I go for a beautiful fibre base like one of the old Kentmeres I keep in stock, or one of the old Kodaks which are 40, 50 years out of date now, they give quite a different look, much more than you'd expect from you'd just get from a film. Because the darkroom is sort of where the rubber meets the road for me. That's where I enjoy making prints most of all. But I have got too many papers and I really need to work through them. Now, I use resin-based papers for proofing, for getting the image right, for getting the dodging and burning correct, and then I move on to fibre-based. Fibre-based is expensive, difficult to wash, it's curly, and it's absolutely stunningly beautiful. So I prefer to use fibre-based papers wherever I can. I have a mix of fibre-based papers. I have warm tone, I have a regular tone, I have cooler tone papers, I have textured papers. I also have art papers. And this year I'm going to be using up some of those art papers and some of those out-of-date papers for lith printing. They're not particularly good when they're 40, 50 years old for conventional printing, but they make stunning lith prints. The papers I'm showing you here aren't the only ones I've got. I have a load of bigger sheets as well, going up to 20 by 24 in resin coated. And I've got 16 by 20 and I've got loads of 16 by 12 fibre based. All that's got to be used up too. And that finally brings me on to chemicals. As I mentioned in that previous video, I have too many chemicals to develop my films. I need to standardize, I need to rationalize my selections right down. I'll probably end up with more than one because it's very difficult to do everything with a single developer. I can see myself needing C41 for the XP2 Super. That's probably a given because it's a lovely landscape film. But I need something else to go alongside that for conventional films. I like HD110 for its keeping properties, but I absolutely love Xtol as well. Xtol 1:1 is will probably say is my go-to developer. It has been for the past sort of 10, 15 years. Beautifully smooth, gives box speed as well. But I've got to use up what I've got first. I've got a lot of old chemicals. I've got ID11, I've got Perceptol, I think I've got some Microfen up there. I need to work through those chemicals. I need to have almost a free year when I'm using what I've got. So I hope you'll enjoy the journey this year. I mean, it's going to be a bit different. I'll be using cameras and film, which potentially I would not normally use. And I will be working through my stocks. I will probably inevitably get round to shooting large format again because I have a reasonable number of sheets, HP5 plus FP4 Delta 100 in 4x5 and 8x10. So those cameras are going to probably come out again. I'm going to save a fortune this year, especially if I can keep my mitts off eBay and Amazon. I'll probably be able to retire on the amount of money I'm going to save and not spending on my hobby. So I imagine I'll be selling different prints as well this year, probably quite a few lith prints in there, and quite a few unusual papers might crop up. So if you're interested, you may want to look at one of those. Now, if you're interested where this thought process came from, just have a look at this video here I recorded quite some months ago where I went for a walk around a lake and decided on that walk that there was no real answer to my film and chemical and paper addiction. But in the months that followed, I have really thought about it a lot. It's really made me consider what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to achieve. And it's made me want to standardize a little bit more. So, hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.